Welcome to Zoom Out Bitcoin, the channel where we take a step back, zoom out, and look at the bigger picture involving Bitcoin. When most people hear about Bitcoin and the environment, one word comes to mind: wasteful. Headlines scream about how Bitcoin is polluting the oceans and wasting energy. But here's the truth. Bitcoin is actually good for the environment. It's not just that though. It's also good for energy infrastructure and people's lives across the globe. Bitcoin miners are quietly reshaping the global energy markets in a way that no other industry has in the past. Bitcoin mining is brutally competitive. Every single miner across the globe is competing for the exact same reward. The only way to stay competitive in this market is to chase the cheapest electricity possible. This isn't like other industries. You can't pass your costs on to customers or make other efficiency changes. In Bitcoin mining, there's one simple rule: cheap energy wins. This pressure does something amazing. It pushes Bitcoin miners to search for the cheapest energy all across the globe. This leads them to places where energy is wasted, stranded, or completely underutilized. Think about hydroelectric dams in the middle of remote mountains. Think about solar farms far away from distant cities, or third world countries where natural gas leaks would otherwise never be touched. Areas where the grid itself and the infrastructure is very sparse, but the energy still exists. Without Bitcoin, this energy would have never been used. It would have been completely wasted, or the projects to actually use it would have never gotten funding to get off the ground in the first place. This is where it gets really interesting. Bitcoin miners aren't just random energy customers. They're guaranteed consumers. If you're an investor looking to build a wind farm, your number one question is, who's actually going to buy the power? If local demand isn't strong enough, the investment just looks too risky. This is where Bitcoin miners come in. They provide a guaranteed customer that sets a baseline for these investors. These investors know that regardless of where they put it, they will have a guaranteed steady cash flow that comes in from these Bitcoin miners. But if you are an investor and you know that Bitcoin miners are ready to come in and buy every single excess megawatt, that gives you a baseline demand. It smooths out the capital raising process. It smooths out the potential risks. They become an anchor customer. This dynamic means more energy projects have actually been started and more are getting built. In many cases, the cheapest option is actually renewable energy. As these local communities grow and actually begin to absorb and build out their infrastructure so that they can use the energy, then the Bitcoin miners leave and they go on to the next town. They're the shock troops of energy infrastructure. They're the first in, but they're also the first out to continue expanding the grid. Which leads us to the next point. Energy grid expansion is notoriously expensive. You need substations, you need transformers, you need power lines. It adds up. Utilities companies often shy away from building and expanding this infrastructure unless they know they have guaranteed demand, which in most cases is in highly dense central cities. Bitcoin miners is changing this equation. These infrastructure builders are able to expand out to more remote locations because they know Bitcoin miners are going to eat up their product. Once those grids rise up to serve Bitcoin miners, those power lines start going to homes, to hospitals, to schools. Bitcoin indirectly begins to bring electricity to cities and towns that otherwise would have never had it. Think of early railroad expansions. They weren't built for everyone, but once the railroads were built in a town or city, it benefited everyone there. Bitcoin mining is playing this pioneering role in our global power grid, especially as AI data centers become hungrier and hungrier for power than we've ever seen. The role of Bitcoin mining in expanding this grid far beyond just dense city centers is going to be critical. Critics say Bitcoin uses too much fossil fuels, that it's wasting energy. But in reality, Bitcoin miners are chasing the cheapest electricity, and that is often becoming renewable energy. Think about hydroelectric spillovers during rainy seasons. Think about wind farms whenever demand is low, and think about solar arrays during peak sunshine hours when storage is scarce. Without Bitcoin, There is no buyer for this energy. It remains wasted. The turbines idle, the dams spill, and the panels dim. Bitcoin provides a steady state consumer for this energy that would otherwise never be used. It converts wasted potential into economic value. Because the load on the power grid isn't consistent, Bitcoin miners operate as a flexible load. They can back off whenever demand is high, and they can ramp up when demand is low. Bitcoin mining doesn't have to happen 24/7. It can only happen when there's excess energy that needs to be used or energy is being underutilized. This smooths out the demand curve for many of these energy suppliers and many of these energy products. This isn't just theory though, it's actually happening. In Texas, Bitcoin miners are plugging into wind and solar zones, smoothing out the grid even during peak hours. In Africa, hydroelectric projects that never had financial viability before are getting funded and being built out because Bitcoin miners are coming into the area. And in Latin America, Bitcoin miners are turning pollution into profit by taking natural gas leaks and methane flare-ups and harnessing it into energy, building out both the Bitcoin miners and helping out the local towns and cities. There are towns all over the world benefiting from this infrastructure build-out, as towns that otherwise would have no need to expand their infrastructure grid and improve the quality of life for their citizens because they don't have the capital to fund it, are getting funding. They're starting to have financial viability as Bitcoin miners move in. And it's not just benefiting the Bitcoin miners. It benefits the local people as well, because Bitcoin doesn't care where you get your energy from or how you get it. It doesn't matter if it comes from a dam, it doesn't matter if it comes from fossil fuels or natural gas. They don't care if it's in a third world country or in the United States. Bitcoin treats everyone fairly. And because of that, people are seeing the benefits across the globe. The narrative around Bitcoin and the environment is upside down. What people didn't get right is they didn't realize Bitcoin would become an energy innovator. Bitcoin has been a catalyst, chasing cheap energy that is often renewable, funding new projects, and expanding the infrastructure and energy grid across the entire globe. Everywhere Bitcoin mining goes, it doesn't only improve the people's lives, it also improves the environment around them. As people begin to make more money and have more economic opportunities, they begin to take more care of their city and their environment. Bitcoin also offers fundings for all of the renewable energy sources that we've hoped for decades and years that would get funded. Now, with Bitcoin mining, these projects are actually seeing the light of day. If you liked this perspective or you enjoyed listening to the video, don't forget to like, comment, hit subscribe, and don't forget, when in doubt, zoom out.